As you all know by now, I am an avid Death Battle fan. I've been watching this show for over half a decade now, made 2 different videos discussing my favorite matchups and characters I really don't want to see on the show, and even backed their Kickstarter when they went independent. I even specifically chose the tier that would let me pitch my own matchup to them. And for all you asking which one I'm gonna pitch, don't act like you don't know. Anyways, I bring all this up because one of my most wanted matchups, that being Bowser vs. Eggman, was one of the many matchups they revealed to be happening if the Kickstarter was funded. And now it's finished and released to the world. How did I feel about it? Well...
No! 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 No!
Yeah, I didn't react the greatest at the very end, but putting that embarrassing reaction to the side for the moment, the Death Battle crew still absolutely cooked with this. The analysis was great on both ends, including just about everything they've ever had across their lengthy histories, while also talking about them as characters and who they are. I thoroughly enjoyed hearing them discuss 2 characters I have strong attachments to. Not to mention the animation itself. I don't care how good Indie Cross V2 ends up being, or whatever Project Moro makes next ends up being, this is his magnum opus. Everything about it, from the colors to the fluidity to the choreography, is just sublime. Honestly, words can't do it justice, you just have to see it for yourself. Of course, I do think there are a couple areas to improve. A couple heavy hitters like Kamek and Bowser Jr. don't really get to do a whole lot, which is important for Kamek since they hyped him up so much in the conclusion, and I think there should have been a bit more fighting between Fury Bowser and the Death Egg robot. Considering they're each other's most popular forms / mechs, a proper fight dynamic between them that goes beyond the awesome but short-lived clash would have been so cool. But other than that, 5 stars all around to the animator, voice actors, and the musician. Seriously, Game Over goes so hard as the track. But with all that said, Eggman should have won. Now let me get this out of the way right now. I fully apologize for my hostile reaction to the end of the episode. I overreacted to an insane degree and came off as saltier than the Atlantic Ocean and more toxic than a nuclear meltdown. So even though I find it funny and slightly irritating just how many people expected me to form a coherent argument given my mental state at the time, I'm sorry for how I acted. However, after thinking it over with a clearer mind and doing some research, I still genuinely believe that Eggman should have won. And I know what the response to that statement is gonna be. I'm gonna get a bunch of people crawling out of the woodwork claiming I'm a salty Sonic fan and that I need to get over it before actually hearing any of my arguments. But with a debate as heated as Mario vs. Sonic, I've come to expect it. Hell, leading up to the episode's release, I was already arguing tooth and nail with several people about it, so this would just be more of the same. The only thing I will ask the people who are gonna jump the gun on my stance is that they hear me out before they go fingers blazing. Immediately trashing someone's opinion on a Versus episode when you haven't even heard a single argument from them is frankly rude and arrogant of you. You would never act that way when arguing with someone face to face. What makes you think it's okay to do that to someone online? I get it, we're all human and we make mistakes, but we should learn and grow from them. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do here. I've stressed in my post on the subject that I will be calm and collected during the video, and I fully intend to do that here. So please, hear me out, listen to my arguments, and then form your own. I will respect you all the more if you do. With that said, let's break this argument down. So in explaining why they think Bowser wins, they break it down into 5 categories, the first of which being physical stats, and they claim that Bowser outmatches the Death Egg robot, which is true. Most iterations of the Death Egg robot, I said most, haven't achieved the kind of feats Bowser has. However, I do take issue with them primarily using this one feat from only one of Eggman's weaker mechs. As iconic as it is, there are several Eggman mechs that outmatch the Death Egg robots. Heck, given that Eggman harnessed Dark Gaia's energy to make the Egg Dragoon, and the Dark Gaia could fight Super Sonic, I'd even say the Egg Dragoon is a better mech. Now granted, they do label them both as casual feats, so they are kind of implying that both have stronger feats, but it is something worth mentioning. The next argument they make honestly makes me laugh. They claim that Bowser can outmatch the final Egg Blaster because Yoshi can match that power, while supposedly being weaker than Bowser. I don't know how to tell you this, but Yoshi has beaten Bowser on multiple occasions. Seriously, if you look at all the Yoshi games, Yoshi has fought and defeated Bowser in almost half of them. Granted, he hasn't done it nearly as often as Mario has, but it is often enough to where I question the validity of their Bowser is stronger than Yoshi claim. Anyways, they then throw out the black hole feats from both of them, and I don't have much to say about these. I'm no mathematician, so I can't really say much about their math. I could bring up the unused voice clip of Eggman saying that the hyper-Gohan energy from the Wisps, which is what the black hole is made of, surpasses even that of the Chaos Emeralds, but since the line was scrapped, the validity of it is dubious to say the least. However, while I will give Death Battle that, I will not agree that this is the best durability feat for Eggman's tech. Many of his machines, including the Egg Salamander, the Egg Shrimp, and the Time Eater, have been able to survive hits from Super Sonic himself, who was able to take on a super-dimensional being like Solaris. Hell, I would even say that Bowser is tougher than where they placed him, as he regularly fights Mario, who is able to fight and defeat Dreamy Bowser alongside Luigi. I know it sounds like I'm just saying words to those of you who don't know these characters, but trust me, we will calc both of these guys in a bit. For now, just keep these two in mind as we move on to... This is where I will give the team extra credit. Bowser typically does have access to all of his magic at once, and there are several spells that can undo the effects of the Metal Virus or transform several of Eggman's robots into various forms they can't escape. That much I will concede, but I would like to argue that Eggman will be able to make up for that. Their main argument is that Eggman can only do the stuff Bowser can do across different mechs, but while that is true, this Death Battle operates under the context of giving them both everything, meaning Eggman would have access to the majority of his crazier gadgets. Plus, given that he's a tactical genius with Sage by his side, he would be more than capable of utilizing his best options to the best of their ability, especially compared to Bowser, who more often than not just goes in fists blazing. Literally. Another thing is, Bowser would have a hard time even hitting most of Eggman's machines with his magic. While some are certainly on the slower side, the best of them are capable of keeping pace with Sonic, who's been routinely stated and shown to be faster than light on a low end. And this is where many people like to argue that Bowser can keep pace with that by scaling to Mario. So let's go over those arguments. The favorite argument of Mario fans is the Star Launcher argument. Many people assume that when Mario is launched by the Lumas, he's actually flying across the planets of whatever galaxy he's in, being able to guide himself to wherever he needs to go. But looking at the action more closely in-game, I find some cracks in this argument. For one, already used star launchers leave a trail behind, and Mario is never able to divert from the trail without using a different star launcher. For two, when he's launched at the start of Galaxy 2, he's very clearly shown flailing about as if he has no control over where he goes. And even when you replay the first level, the path to the start doesn't really change. This tells me that Mario isn't really flying throughout the galaxy, rather the Lumas are blasting him to where he needs to go on a set path that he can't alter. The other argument that's actually presented in the episode is the Power Stars being able to fly across the galaxy in seconds, and this one is even flimsier. Like, I don't know about the rest of you, but I think it's pretty obvious that Mario isn't flying with the Power Star here. He's being pulled by them across the galaxy, something they even state in the episode. Sure, Bowser is able to capture all the Power Stars and Grand Stars, but all of that is off-screen, only told to us by Rosalina. The most we see of Bowser catching one of them is him chomping on one during the final boss of Galaxy 2. And even then, the Grand Star doesn't move at all, it just kinda sits there waiting to be caught. Heck, even when harnessing a Grand Star's power, he never exhibits their speed at all. He gets an enormous power boost for sure, but he's never shown to be as fast as the Power Stars. The closest we kinda get is in the opening of Galaxy 2, but considering there appears to be a giant portal in the background, it's more likely he just flew into that to get away. And even if he was actually flying away out of the atmosphere, the Wisps can do that in about the same amount of time. So my point still stands, Bowser has not shown any reaction speed that's even close to the likes of Eggman's best machinery, who routinely keep up with the fastest thing alive. And that's important for using his magic on them. To be fair, he could definitely use it on some of the slower machines, but against Eggman's best, he's getting blitzed. Side note, does anyone else find it odd that out of all the important categories for deciding the fight, speed wasn't one of them? Like, you would think a Sonic character with a robot Sonic by his side would possess some game-changing speed, but not according to Death Battle, apparently. By the way, I'm skipping over the intelligence category. I think we can all agree who takes that one. Honestly, the only people I can see disagreeing are the people that take statements as facts, regardless of contradictory evidence. And that's how you get beyond Infinity Eggman! I'm not kidding. This particular category is where I find the most issues with Death Battle's reasoning, and it's where I think Eggman actually has his best chances of winning. To start off, they paint this kind of situation as mostly in Bowser's favor, yet at the end deem it a tie despite providing no advantages for Eggman. That already strikes me as odd, and it only gets worse from there. But I will give them this. Super Eggman versus Wonder Bowser? Yeah, Bowser's taking that. Frankly, I'm surprised Super Eggman was even mentioned at all, considering his only appearance is in official artwork, and the only information about him says that he needs prep time to achieve it, something Death Battle doesn't allow. I could get nitpicky with them taking Bowser's boastful statement of making the universe's captive audience at face value, but Bowser conquered the universe without that power before. I don't doubt he could do it again with it. Where I think they completely dropped the ball is with their next example. Folks, it's finally time to talk about the Dream Stone. Now, calculating the power of this MacGuffin is difficult to say the least. Since Dreamy Bowser in his boss fight has basically no feats aside from summoning a bunch of stuff, the only real way to calculate how powerful he is to measure the Dream Stone's power, which is pretty vaguely defined in the game. The best idea we get is that it's able to grant any wish you desire, but the extent of that is never fully defined. Now, I'm not just going to go with that and say the Dream Stone is limitless in power, since that's not only a no-limits fallacy, but also disproven by the fact that it was stopped and destroyed by Mario and Luigi. Instead, I'm going to try to calculate the Dream Stone's power by scaling it to the Dream World itself, which then begs the question, how big is the Dream World? Well, there are multiple theories, but the ones I will talk about are the two main ones. The first theory suggests the Dream World is a multiverse. Essentially, the theory states that when a person falls asleep on Piilo Island, the Dream World manifests as an exclusive universe for that person, and this applies to everyone who sleeps on Piilo Island. This theory makes some sense and is even somewhat supported given that Bowser and Phantasma had to make everyone on the island sleep to power the Dream Stone, but I don't fully buy this claim for a few reasons. For one, the Dream World is constantly referred to by everyone, including the Piilo folk, as the Dream World, as if there's only one Dream World, and no one who enters the Dream World contradicts this. For two, the levels you enter in the game always remain the same no matter how many times you re-enter them. You would think for a multiverse that's made depending on the dreamer that there'd be some level of control or variation, but nope, it remains the same no matter what. My third problem is that supposedly each dream world will be exclusive to the person dreaming it, yes? Well, not only are people from the outside able to enter these dream worlds, but there are also 4 different Piilo folk that share the same dream world together. Now, is 4 different people sharing the exact same dream impossible? No, but it's not very likely either. The point I'm trying to make is, while the multiverse idea makes sense in some areas, there are things present throughout the game that contradict that. And even if these things didn't mean anything and the multiverse idea was true, how on earth are you supposed to calculate that? The population of Piilo Island alone is undefined, much less the rest of the Mario world, and that's assuming the Dream World goes that far, which it might not given the lack of appearances in following games. The only way I could see someone finding that out is to meticulously count every individual NPC in the game, and who the heck has that kind of time these days? Moving on from that, the other major theory says the Dream World is an infinite space that constantly changes depending on who's dreaming. While this would also make sense at first glance, there are unfortunately 2 instances that contradict it. At one point in the story, the gang is trying to hide Princess Peach deep in the Dream World where Bowser can't find her, but they don't have enough space when they enter for the first time. You would think that if the Dream World was infinite, Luigi, the one who's currently dreaming, would just need to dream up more space, but no, instead we gotta go on a long and frankly tedious quest to find 3 dream eggs to expand the Dream World far enough to hide Peach. Furthermore, later in the game when we enter Bowser's dream, he keeps munching on meat to try to get big enough to smash Mario and Luigi, and for some reason he runs out of meat to eat. Like, what's stopping him from dreaming up more meat if the Dream World is infinite? Probably nothing, but Bowser goes on a rampage anyway and eats everything in sight. Honestly, this theory has even less legs to stand on than the multiverse theory. So if I don't believe the Dream World is infinite or a multiverse, what is it then? Well, given what we can surmise, I believe that the Dream World is a separate universe that people enter when they dream on Piilo Island. It can change in aesthetic depending on where they are, and the person dreaming is able to do stuff they normally can't, but the core layout of it is always the same, unless using dream eggs to expand it. In fact, I'd liken it to something like the town of Silent Hill, which I know sounds like a bizarre comparison, but bear with me for a second. In that franchise, the town of Silent Hill changes its aesthetic depending on who enters it, but the layout of the town is always the same. In Silent Hill 2, for example, the characters James, Angela, and Eddie all enter Silent Hill, but they each see the town differently. James sees nothing but rot and decay, Angela sees a town on fire, and Eddie sees a meat freezer. Heck, you can even enter other people's versions of Silent Hill in the games, almost like the Dream World. And as for the Dream Stone needing everyone on the island to sleep to power it, I'd chalk that up to how many people are active in the Dream World rather than them creating their own universes. Hey, editing Tony here. This part isn't in the script, but while I was gathering footage for this video, I found something that further proves my theory. During the parts where Dreambirds, Mario, and Luigi are trying to hide Peach, and they enter the dream world for the first time, Dreambird says, "Is this the end of this part of the dream world?" So that's further proof that the dream world is a universe with limitations. Now, with all that established, it's safe to assume that Dreamy Bowser will be around universal power range, at least at a base level. Again, the guy has barely anything else to go off of. But regardless of that, the Time Eater and Super Neo Metal Sonic dwarf that by a significant margin. It's established time and again throughout the Sonic series that Sonic is constantly evolving. He was able to effortlessly beat Perfect Chaos in his base form, despite requiring his super form previously, and he was able to fight against Infinite much better after 6 months of captivity, despite being completely outmatched before. This is important as one of the Super Sonics that the Time Eater fought had previously beaten Solaris, the interdimensional being I mentioned before, and this thing was going to consume every universe and timeline that exists in the Sonic multiverse. In just one timeline, there exists the main Sonic universe, the Soul Dimension, King Arthur's universe, cyberspace, which is confirmed by the end to be a whole other reality made by the Ancients, Classic Sonic's universe, blame Forces for that, and the 1001 universes that exist in the Arabian Nights. Yes, that's actually a multiverse. Eraser Jin states at the start that he's already destroyed 100 of them in the context of them being individual universes. And remember, this is all in the main Sonic timeline. In addition to that, there exists the Bad Future timeline from Sonic CD and the 326 alternate timelines from Shadow the Hedgehog. Doing the multiplication, that equates to 329,968 times universal power. That is the rough estimation of how powerful Solaris is. And remember, Sonic only grows more powerful as the series goes on, meaning the Time Eater was fighting against a Super Sonic that was even more powerful than that. This would also apply to Super Neo Metal, as Base Metal Sonic is able to match Sonic pretty consistently, and Super Neo Metal has the Chaos Emeralds. Of course, we do have to consider the Dreamstone's ability to just wish anything out of existence, and I will admit that it is possible that Dreamy Bowser could do that to the Time Eater and Super Neo Metal, if he was fast enough. When Bowser attempted to wish Mario and Luigi out of existence, he was interrupted by Peach and Starlo before he could finish it. This proves that you can stop a wish for the Dreamstone if you're quick enough, and both the Time Eater and Super Neo Metal absolutely are. The Time Eater was capable of keeping ahead of both Super Sonics for an extended period of time, and Super Neo Metal would obviously scale to Super Sonic in speed. As mentioned previously, Sonic is faster than light at minimum, and Super Sonic is even faster. In fact, he's fast enough to move constantly throughout the present time frame to hurt an omnipresent being like Solaris. Now yes, Super Shadow and Super Silver were also there in the past and the future, but time goes both directions constantly. There's always more past in the past and more future in the future, and the same goes for the present. Yet somehow, all three of these Super Hogs were able to move fast enough throughout time and space to be in the same presence as this omnipresent being. Something like that already breaks the speed equation like a twig, and once again, Sonic only grows stronger and faster over time. So the Super Sonic of today would be even faster, meaning that Super Neo Metal could possibly be that fast as well. Maybe not the Time Eater given the time it fought Super Sonic, but Super Neo Metal most definitely would. Also, as a side note, I find it hysterical that they genuinely expect us to believe that Solaris annihilating the whole multiverse in 20 seconds is somehow 6 times slower than the Power Stars dragging Mario across part of one universe in 3 seconds. Like, what? In any case, they then go on to compare the Chaos Emeralds to the Grand Stars and Power Stars, and they make the claim that because the Grand Stars and Power Stars are more plentiful, they can overpower the Chaos Emeralds, which isn't true at all. One Grand Star was responsible for the collapse and rebirth of an entire universe, and there are 13 Grand Stars in total across both Galaxy games, not 24 plus as they suggest. Heck, even if you throw in the Luigi campaign in Galaxy 1 despite its debatable canonicity, that would only bring the number up to 20 Grand Stars, meaning that at absolute best, Bowser would be getting a 20 times universal power boost if he absorbed all of them, which would be nowhere near enough to even match the power of the Chaos Emeralds. As for the Power Stars, they lump in the Shine Sprites and Power Moons from Sunshine and Odyssey, even though both of those are not the same as the Galaxy Power Stars, given their significantly weaker power and different purposes. And they weirdly interpret Rosalina's statement about Lumas becoming galaxies over an extended lifespan as the Power Stars being galaxy level out the gate. But for the sake of an argument, while I won't accept lumping in the Power Moons and Shine Sprites with the Power Stars, let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say that each Power Star is indeed galaxy level. There are roughly 350 Power Stars across both Galaxy games. and because there's no concrete evidence for how large the Mario universe is, I'm going to assume it's about the same size as our own universe. You want to know how many galaxies are in our own observable universe? Roughly 2 trillion. At least. So the power of every single power star across both galaxy games would only be a fraction of what one grand star is capable of, and once again, not even close to what the Chaos Emeralds are capable of. They tried to paint it as quantity over quality, when it's really quality over quantity. The last alternate scenario they show is Nightmare Eggman vs Star Rod Bowser, and that's the one scenario presented I genuinely couldn't tell you the outcome of. Both have vaguely defined powers of wishing for whatever you want and conjuring up anything you can dream of, both can make themselves pretty much invincible, and both were only stopped by beings that made their power to begin with, those being the Star Spirits and Arium respectively. So without access to either of those on either side, this is basically an unstoppable force versus an immovable object, and providing one but not the other would be so unfair knowing that one side has something to counteract and stalemate the fight. So I think the best course of action would be to not include either in the debate just to ensure there's no biases. But because I know people are going to be screaming about it in the comments, I'm going to address one more thing before we move on. The Pure Hearts. The corner box they present about the Pure Hearts makes the claim that these would counter the Time Eater and the Paradox Prism, since they counter the Chaos Heart, which could similarly destroy the whole multiverse. And they also claim that both multiverses are infinite in size based on statements from both series? Okay, addressing the infinite multiverse claim first, there is absolutely no concrete evidence for either of Mario or Sonic's multiverses being infinite. The most I've seen from Sonic's side is a narcissistic, self-aggrandizing statement from Eggman Nega in the Japanese version of Sonic Rush, and there's not even any such statement on Mario's end to back that up either. Even if there was, statements alone aren't always enough to solidify a claim, especially in the face of conflicting evidence. For example, several characters in Sonic claim the Chaos Emeralds have infinite power, yet their power has been bypassed and even completely drained before. I used to believe that the Chaos Emeralds had infinite power, but after closer examination, infinite power by definition can't be surpassed or drained. See what I mean by statements alone can't prove a claim? Now yes, the guys behind these franchises are always looking for new ways to expand them, which in turn creates new universes for these characters to explore, and the longer these franchises go on, the bigger their cosmologies will likely get. So in a technical sense, Mario and Sonic's multiverses would be infinite in size, but that's not the sense most versus debaters use, so it's not the one I'll use. Going back to the Pure Hearts, they were able to nullify the Chaos Heart's power, but the scope of what the Chaos Heart could do is not even close to what the Chaos Emeralds or the Time Meter could do. I've already counted how many universes currently exist in the Sonic multiverse, so I'll count how many universes exist in the Mario multiverse too. As of the most recent game we've gotten, the Mario multiverse consists of the main Mario universe, the Paper Mario universe established in Paper Jam, the parallel universe in Color Splash, the give or take 8 different universes you travel through in Super Paper Mario, the Sprixie Kingdom in 3D World, and most recently Concordia in Brothership. That's about 13 universes, and compared to the size of Sonic's current multiverse, it's not even a fraction of the size. Not to mention, is it even fair to give Bowser the Pure Hearts at all? Like, yeah, they were using the final battle against Count Bleck and Super Dimentio, but Bowser wasn't even the one collecting them for the most part. That was Mario and Peach. Plus, the Pure Hearts were specifically made to counter the Chaos Hearts, so even if you gave him the Pure Hearts, it likely wouldn't work against the Time Eater. I think when people see something counter a multiverse-destroying thing, they just immediately assume that it will work on literally anything like that, regardless of scale or intended purpose. Either way, it's time we move on to their final category. This last category is a bit tricky because on the one hand, they bring up some valid points. The loyalty that Bowser's minions have and their ability to use any Mario power-up would be a really big advantage in theory. Furthermore, heavy hitters like Kamek and King Boo would be valuable assets to Bowser, but when it comes to Eggman's heaviest hitters, they hit even harder. I've already brought up Metal Sonic's speed and power several times, so I don't think I need to explain how he could probably take out the entire Koopa Troop before they could blink. But there's also Infinite and Sage. Now, ignoring the terrible memes that spawned from the Thwomp and flooded my YouTube homepage for over a week, Infinite can create duplicates of other Sonic characters that are stated and shown to be as powerful as their original counterparts. So along with Shadow, Zavok, and Chaos, Infinite could spawn in hundreds of Metal Sonics just as powerful as the original, or just straight up drop a star on the battlefield to totally overwhelm the Koopa Troop. Not to mention being able to keep up with and outmatch a modern-day Sonic would make him much more valuable than the episode depicts him as. Then there's Sage, the one who controls the entire army. At the start of Frontier, she was able to run millions of simulations to predict the best possible chance of success in about 10 or so seconds. She's arguably just as smart as Eggman and could likely formulate any plan while the battle is going on to utilize the best of Eggman's tech against the best of the Koopa Troop. And just what do they have to say about that?
Even with Sage's millions of plans to take on the Titans, she thought them to be unbeatable, which Sonic proved was incorrect.
I genuinely hate this statement because it's a bare-faced lie. First of all, her simulations were in relation to the end, not the Titans. Second of all, anyone who's finished Frontiers knows that the real reason Sage thought the end was unbeatable was because she never factored in Sonic.
This is our chance. I never simulated a scenario where Sonic helped, since you never authorized it.
In this situation, she wouldn't have any restrictions on her and would have most of, if not all, the factors on hand for her to formulate the perfect plan. This notion that Sage was simply wrong seriously downplays what she was capable of in Frontiers. But then again, what do I expect for the first scene? They practically get off on downplaying Sonic characters. Admittedly, Kamek and King Boo could probably do some significant damage. There is always the possibility that Kamek could swipe the emeralds or King Boo could alter the playing field, but the sheer speed and power of Eggman's best would likely stop both of them before they could get that chance. Heck, even the minions using the power-ups wouldn't make much of a difference considering that Eggman has an almost equal amount of variety of robots at his disposal, and the power-ups themselves are oftentimes simplistic and easy to work around. Bowser has some good troops that are loyal to a fault, but who needs loyalty when you have speed, power, and intelligence on your side? Alright, that's all the categories covered. Overall, despite some valid arguments for Bowser winning... Wait, what?
Showtime!
Oh no, not again!
Oh, wait. Wrong sound. Sorry!
Sorry? That wrong sound scared me half to death! Why the heck did you...
Cookie.
Ooh, thank you. Also, why are you here? I'm in the middle of something.
Heard you talking about Bowser vs. Eggman, and I wanted to give my thoughts. Turn this debunk into a debate.
The video's long enough as is.
Unlike what most people would be led to think, I'm actually not siding with Tony on this argument. In fact, leading up to this debate, we had a few long discussions about it. But even with some of the evidence presented, I still think that Bowser wins. Let me try to break it down into a few points. First of all, let's address something kinda minor in scale, but it's been bugging me for a while. What is that? Before you go into the comments and say, Piffle, that's the Death Egg robot, you dummy! My counterpoint to that is, which one? It can't be the movie one because the movie contradicts the canon of the games, therefore it can't be used. The closest one I could find is the one in Generations, but it can't be that one either. That one has knee pads and is way shorter. I bring this up to say that the whole visual argument of Fury Bowser being as big as any of the Death Egg robots is dumb. Yes, size doesn't usually matter in a fight, but it sure does matter when the Death Battle Egg over here gets completely penetrated by one punch, not the anime! Point is, given the cannon size of this thing, the clash would be over in seconds. Anywho, I should probably get into some actual points. More specifically, a certain Sherry. Or 2, or 3, or 4. You get the point. The double cherry takes what the Phantom Ruby can do with its copies and copies its homework. Haha, kill me. While this alone isn't extremely useful, it's shown that these copies change based on the user's current form, giving them an edge over the Phantom copies already, as in Forces, they stayed their base form shown off by Chaos Zero and Metal Sonic. Due to this, I can say that Bowser could very well have multiple copies of his strongest forms. You might say that this is stupid because clones can be one-shot, but here's the caveat. The original is always the last of the clones to be defeated, meaning if Bowser cloned himself with the cherries and Kamek made duplicate Bowsers, big threats like Metal would be spread thin dealing with each one. Speed Blitzing could deal with a few, but if Bowser's in his dreamy form, it wouldn't leave Metal with enough time to take down every single one before a wish is made. Remember, each clone is just as strong as the original, they just aren't as durable. Now let's talk about Kamek for a bit. And by a bit, I mean a few seconds. Dude can straight up disable people's powers, so via doing that, Neo Metal wouldn't be able to copy the data from Bowser or Kamek himself. Also, to the people who say that Eggman Roulette is a genuine tool he could use against Chance Time, what? It's not even magic like Chance Time, it just tells him what machine he should use. Plus, there's so much setup involved with it, so why would he go through the trouble when he could just get the item he stole taken back? The next point I want to bring up is one that got tossed around a ton. Even Tony did until he calmed down in the stream, but Eggman going back in time and snapping Baby Bowser's neck? It's so circumstantial for that to work. Same for the inverse. For this to work, both would need to know the canon ages of the opponent, which due to death battle rules there'd be no way to know, travel back in time to the years of the opponent being a baby, find where they live, and then beat them before the other figured out what they're doing. Do you see that problem now? Don't give me the excuse that Bowser's too stupid to figure it out so he would still die, because Bowser or Eggman leaving gives Bowser free reign to wish Eggman away, or Eggman free reign to tear through time and catch up to Bowser. Either way you spin that argument, the baby play ends in a stalemate, unless you give bias towards one of them. Like Tony mentioned earlier, the actual unlimited power of the Emeralds is very vague. While I don't think that the power of the Grand Stars alone would do much of anything to the Chaos Emeralds, if you mix them with Bowser's other forms, like Fury for example, it could do some damage. Not much, but it could do something. Now everyone, may I introduce you to the item that probably trumps most of this fight with one use, the Wonder Flower. Quantifying how powerful these things are is a bit of a struggle, but with all the information we've been given, I think that I have all that I need. It's been made pretty clear throughout the story of Wonder that Bowser and Bowser Jr. can control the Wonder Power to their liking, meaning if the Wonder Flower were to change the form of Eggman or any of his mechs, those two would be unaffected. Running from it wouldn't work because it's stated that it can domain expansion throughout the entire universe. Some of these effects could benefit Bowser directly, like turning them all into balloons or making them tiny and weaker with no reliable counter via the frozen state they entered when their size is altered. What's Eggman gonna do about that? That's about all of my arguments, really. Feel free to correct me in the comments respectfully, though, because if it is respectful, I'll read and respond to it. If it's not, I won't. Be nice, people. It's not hard.
Wow, that's quite a bit of stuff, but I would like to provide some counterpoints. While the Double Cherry clones aren't necessarily one-shots, they can be dealt with much easier through overpowering them or just going for the original. And considering Super Neo Metal's insanely high speed and overwhelming power, it wouldn't take much to handle them all. The Wonder Flower, meanwhile, would be pretty tough to deal with, but the best uses of it require Bowser being smart enough to know that, which I doubt he is. Junior probably could be, given his more varied uses of it, but Bowser only made himself a castle and a rock concert. He's not really the most imaginative Koopa. Honestly, you bring up some pretty good points, but even with all of this, I still believe that Eggman wins.
Oh yeah? Well, I still think Bowser wins.
And that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, I respect that.
Okay, can you leave now?
Nope.
Well, after all that, I think I made my stance as clear as I can. While I do admit there are scenarios where Bowser would win, I still firmly believe that Eggman has the means necessary to win more often than not. But if you disagree, that's perfectly fine. In fact, why not elaborate on why you disagree? I'd love to have a healthy debate about who truly wins, so long as you're respectful about it. And like I said at the start, we're all human at the end of the day. We can make mistakes, but what's important is that we learn from them. And that's what I've tried to do today, and I hope you can do the same. Besides, despite my own disagreements, I will fully acknowledge how much effort went into this episode. Many have called it Death Battle's best episode ever, and honestly, ignoring any and all biases, I can agree. In fact, the sheer brilliance of this episode has only cemented my belief that after this episode, Mario vs. Sonic should end here. And I don't mean just Mario vs. Sonic as characters, I mean Mario vs. Sonic as a concept for versus. I know it's an iconic pairing that's been around since the 90s, but at some point it has to end, or else it'll just get stale. Bowser vs. Eggman was the last remaining matchup that deserved to happen, and it was almost perfect. Everyone on the team poured their heart and soul into it, and it paid off 1,000-fold. So to the people who think Mario vs. Sonic should always be a thing, I have to ask, Where do we go from here? What matchup is left that's really worth doing and would be cool and interesting to see? Aside from Mario vs. Sonic themselves for the third time, the rest are bland, predictable, and downright detestable. And even with the iconic third rematch, do we really need another Mario vs. Sonic? Do we seriously need yet another rematch with these two and their constantly evolving franchises that only make the debate more and more complicated as time goes on? I know some people want it to be like an epilogue to Bowser vs. Eggman, but you know for a damn fact that it won't be. It'll just keep going and going and going until we're all old and crusty. And personally speaking, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of constantly making these franchises fight each other, and tired of constantly getting into debates that just will not end. Honestly, it's become way more interesting and fun to see characters from both franchises fight against different franchises, and there's a lot more potential matchups out there that would be cool to see. Mario vs. Sonic as a concept has run its course for me. We've bled the stone dry, and there's nothing left to see. Bowser vs. Eggman deserves to be the finale to the idea as a whole, and I don't want to see the concept be done like so many franchises that were supposed to end at a certain point, but kept going for the sake of it. If despite all I've said, you still believe that Mario vs. Sonic 3 needs to happen, then fine. I can't make you change your mind, but I will insist that it shouldn't happen for a very, very long time. Give these characters more games and more media, that way when they do return, you'll have a lot more to talk about. Do that, and it could be interesting. But as for me, Bowser vs. Eggman is where Mario vs. Sonic dies for good. It was practically made like it was the end, and it deserves to be the end. I'm Tony Sonic, and thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and share it around to your friends. I'm not sure if this will be released before or after the Christmas Eve Q&A, but whether it does or not, this will be the last major project I have planned for 2024. Next year is sure to be an exciting one. I got new ideas for videos, streams, and e-raws, some of which you'll be able to pick yourself. Hope you all look forward to that. See you next year, everybody.